Hi there Booktube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm doing the Independent Bookshop Week Tag. So you may be wondering, but Eleanor, it's a Friday, where's your What I Read video? Well, this week I read one book. It's been a bit of a slow week. I've been watching a lot of Netflix. I've just been doing other things and I don't like it. I miss reading a lot, and so I'm trying to get my mojo back. I'm reading a good book at the moment, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but I finished one book this week, so I'm going to save it and tack it on to next week's. So I thought rather than not having any video, I would do a tag, and seeing as it is Independent Bookshop Week here in the UK at the moment, I would do this one. This tag was created by Vintage Books. I wasn't tagged by anyone, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. So let's get into the tag. Question 1 is, what books are currently in your bag? Well, at the moment I'm reading two books. I am currently reading Granta issue 127, which is Japan, and I've read a couple of short stories from this, and I pick it up and read bits and bobs. It's basically short story collections by Japanese writers or about Japan, and I'm really excited about this. I'm loving Granta magazines. This is my first foray into it and I'm really enjoying it so far, so I'm just taking my time with it and discovering new authors to check out. Also, I have A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, which is the second book, the sequel to A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars, but it wasn't one that I was going to carry on with. But I've heard so many good things about this second one. People like me who didn't love the first one and just liked it are saying that the second one is brilliant. So I thought I should read it, and I'm reading it for part of a readathon. So far I'm not too far in, but I'm enjoying it and I'm hoping it will help me get back into my reading a little bit more. The next question is, what is the last great book you read? I've got 2 great books that I read recently. In fact, I've got 3, but I'm mentioning another one in a different question. So I'm just going to talk about 2. The first one is actually the book I read this week, which I will be talking about next week, and that is Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the sequel to Illuminae, and this is an ARC copy. The book comes out in October of this year and I loved it. It was a 5-star read. Next, another great book that I've read recently is Caris Bray's The Museum of You. This is again an ARC copy, so it doesn't look like this. It's out now and I really loved this as well. Caris Bray doesn't fail to fill me with emotion and write really great books. I've loved all 3 of her books that I've read. Sweet Home, which is her short story collection, this one, and also A Song for Issy Bradley. All 3 brilliant, all 5 stars, definitely an author that I'll be keeping my eye on. The next question 3, is, what book have you gifted the most? Well, unfortunately, in my everyday life, I do not have a lot of friends that read, and my family aren't massive readers. My nan's a big reader, but she tends to get her books from the library, and so I don't tend to gift books very often, which makes me sad because I do enjoy buying a good book. However, the book that I recommended the most after reading it, the one that I was so excited after reading that everybody I spoke to on Booktube, I was like, you must read this, you must read this, was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I absolutely loved this book. I can't wait for the next one to come out. It's such a great science fiction story. It's full of wonderful characters, diversity, and just a really engaging plot where we just fall in love with the characters and their friendships. Question 4 is, what is your favourite independent bookshop? I shop in a lot of second-hand and charity shops and I love those, but one of my favourite independent bookshops I've ever visited is Mr. B's in Bath, and the reason I love this, it's not very close to where I live at all, and I've made special trips up there. Twice now I've been there for their book spa. My mother-in-law very kindly got me a Mr. B's book spa one year, I think it was for Christmas, and we took a trip up there and it is so amazing. Basically, the book spa is that you go into the bookshop, you get to sit in these lovely comfy chairs in front of a fake sort sort of open fire. You chat to the bookseller about what you like, recent reads, favourite authors, and you have a nice bit of cake and coffee, and the bookseller goes off and comes back with a massive stack of books, which they proceed to talk to you about, tell you the synopsis, tell you why they love them, they tell you why they think you'll like them. And as part of the package for what you've paid, you have a certain amount of money you can spend on books, which you can pick from the stack if they have piqued your interest, or you can just go and buy your own. But I definitely picked from the stack. They were very knowledgeable, very interesting, and it was such a wonderful experience, and it has really left a mark with me, and I definitely want to go back again and do that soon. Next up is, what is your the best book that has been recommended to you either by a bookseller or a booktuber? Well, I've got two books here, and one has directly been recommended to me by a booktuber, and the other one has been recommended through a video she made. So the first one is Jen Campbell's video on Jane Eyre. I loved Jane Eyre, and it was partly because of her video that really piqued my interest into trying and giving it a go, and I'm so pleased I did. And then the book that was directly recommended to me was The Painted Man by Peter B. Brett. This is the first book in a series which I am now up to date on and currently waiting for the latest one to come out. Caitlin recommended this to me. I wouldn't have picked it up otherwise. The cover doesn't really draw me in. I wasn't sure from the synopsis when it talks about demons and things like that whether it was going to be my kind of book, but I'm so pleased that I picked it up. It was phenomenal. I really enjoyed this fantasy. Next question is, what was your favourite bookshop memory? Well, actually, I'm rubbish. My memory is terrible. I don't remember very many things from when I was younger. However, a more recent experience was I went on a London book shopping trip with the lovely Caitlin from Kitty G, and we decided we were going to try a few bookshops we hadn't been to before. I looked through my London bookshop book and we found a few shops to try, and literally during that whole day I spent the whole time going, oh, I've been looking for that one. Oh, that was on my wish list. Oh my god, I can't believe they've got that one. And it was just one of those days where we just found loads of books we'd both been wanting and looking for, and it was just a really lovely fun day. I had my first ever Five Guys burger, which changed my life, and it was just a really fun day and just such a giggle. I always love going out with Caitlin. The next question is, what do bookshops mean to you? And for me, a bookshop is always about surprise and possibility. It's the anticipation of what you might find on the shelves and what you might discover. I always go in with a bit of a list, and I tend to start out looking for the books on that list, so I use it as a bit of a treasure hunt to find out where they are and if they've got them. But as I'm doing that, I'm seeing other books and looking at other books, and I just love it when you go in, and it doesn't happen every time, but there's a possibility you're going to go in and you're going to find something, and it's going to change your life, and it's going to change the way you think about things, or it's going to move you forward into a new genre or area of reading that you didn't know you wanted to read. And I just love that. I love that anticipation. The next question is, what are the books that have made you or influenced you? Well, definitely Enid Blyton as an author was somebody when I was younger that I loved. I used to gobble up all of her books, and she definitely gave me a love of reading. Slightly later on, The Worst Witch books, I loved those, and Mallory Towers, anything set in a bit of a school. So it's no surprise then, as I got into late teenage years, that I rekindled my love of reading through Harry Potter. Then later in my early 20s, my husband, or he wasn't at the time, he was my boyfriend. We hadn't been together that long. He came back from a shop and said, I know you love reading. I know you love vampire and paranormal books. I found this on the shelf. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but you know, I got it for you. And he'd bought me the first Twilight book, and I loved it. And I gobbled them all up, and then it became a thing, and I was so excited to be able to talk to other people about it. So that again brought me through in my 20s. And then more recently, To Kill a Mockingbird has definitely rekindled my love of literature, and very latest, bringing me through into a new area I didn't know I loved, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen I read for the first time this year, and it has made me love classics and really excited about trying more. And late last year I read The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, which has made me realise that big books needn't be scary and that they can be wonderful and a really rewarding read. And again, classics not to be scared of. The next question is asking what gift you would recommend, or what book you would recommend to gift on Father's Day. I suppose, like most people, my answer to that would be, well, it depends if your dad reads. My dad does read. He reads a lot of crime fiction and Patterson and Baldacci and those types of books, which actually I don't read any of, so I would be rubbish at recommending or buying for him. And he buys quite prolifically himself those books. He's always up to date, so he's always got books to read. So generally I wouldn't gift my dad books. Unfortunately, generally my dad gets gifted socks, because I always ask my mum what he wants and socks is always on the list. So yeah, not books. And the final question is, what book or books are at the top of your TBR? Well, I have two at the moment, and both because I am behind on my BookTuber Recommends project. The first one is The Signature of All Things by Elizabeth Gilbert. This was my pick for a few months ago from the lovely Patty at I Smell Books, and I really want to get to this. I just need to pick it up and get started. And the second one is The Rook by Daniel O'Malley, which was recommended by Nicole at Dorkerbrain, which was my recommends for this month. So those two books are top of my TBR and will be read really soon, promise. Anyway, that's my tag, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I tag anyone that fancies doing this, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.